What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here. Finally. Finally, we're leaving those awful CWDC shows behind us and finally getting into a show that I've wanted to watch for a long time. For whatever reason, I didn't watch it, and then whenever I decided I wanted to watch it, I'm like, you know what? Might as well review it because it's fun to talk about this stuff. So this is The Mandalorian, Chapter 1, Episode 1. I'm just going to call them chapters since that's how they're listed. Chapter 1, The Mandalorian. And yeah, it's a great kickoff to the show. Obviously, a lot of my excitement is coming from because everybody talks very highly about the show. So, as far as this episode is concerned, it's definitely not quite shown that yet. Not that it's bad or anything. I'm just not seeing the heights that obviously I know it's probably going to reach. It's definitely a very good setup episode, though. It's one that you get introduced to the main character, you get to know a little bit about him, see how he operates, and all of that. And then, of course, it ends with sort of what I know. I don't really know much about it. I've managed to stay away from a lot of spoilers. I know some characters that do show up later on, but I don't really know what the overall story is. Like, what. I know it's not Baby Yoda, I know it's Grogu, but I still want to call him Baby Yoda because it's cuter. I don't really know what his whole story is and why he's kind of the focus. At least I know he's the focus of the first and second season. I'm pretty sure because I saw, obviously the internet blew up with Baby Yoda memes, both of those seasons. But I didn't see much about him in the third season, so I don't know if he is off the show at that point or if he's just not as important. So that's kind of something that I'm interested to see more about and find out what this show is truly about, outside of just Mando watching over the kid. Because I know that's sort of what people have made jokes about that I've seen before, that Pedro Pascal's typical thing, like Joel in Last of Us watching over a kid, Mando and Mandalorian watching over a kid. Um, it is kind of funny to see that similarity put out there. But overall, as far as memorable moments from this episode, I mean, the IG droid bounty hunter was pretty fun. Just the way he moved and how he fought, it was very cool because I've seen those droids before, in past Star Wars stuff or even just in some of the games, and I don't know, they always felt very stiff, and I always kind of wondered how could they be bounty hunters if they seem very robotic in their movements. This one, the way they sort of animated him to move and shoot and stuff, it was a lot of fun, and it showed me what the capabilities of a true IG battle droid bounty hunter can be. So that was very fun and interesting. Also kind of funny that every single time it seemed like all hope was lost. Just, I'm initiating my self-destruct sequence. Perfect. Also, Mando's back and forth dialogue with people is very fun. I also like the fact that he doesn't talk a whole lot to people he doesn't really care for, which makes sense. He does seem the type to be the silent brooding, unless he needs to talk, unless there's a reason for him to talk. But I like the fact, though, that we got an introduction to him, and then we also got an introduction to sort of his less serious side at times, because if he was just a stoic badass throughout this entire episode, I feel like we've seen that type of character done so much, it would become a little, I guess, samey in some ways. So the fact that we got to see him be vulnerable, trying to ride this thing, I don't remember what it's called now, but trying to ride it and failing, and he just keeps getting tossed around by this little creature. It was kind of funny. There was something funny about seeing this badass just not able to simply ride this beast. So I appreciated that they showed us that, and also we did get seemingly some glimpses into his backstory as well, so I'm sure that will be explored further down the line. And I also do wonder if that had something to do with why he didn't just straight up shoot the kid, because obviously it seems like he lost his parents at a young age and might be an orphan, so maybe he looks at, obviously 50 years old, so not necessarily a kid, but looks like a kid. Maybe he looks at Grogu and thinks, well, I mean, that's very similar to how I felt, just having nobody there to protect you in the world. So that's just kind of the inference I'm throwing out there. I'm sure that at some point we'll get that explanation. But yeah, I mean, overall, just a lot of fun stuff. Guy getting chopped in half by the door at the beginning was fun. I will say it was a little weird that they had the one guy that was so on watch for the creatures under the ice at the beginning, and he's the one that gets taken down. It felt a little odd. I know they're going for kind of shock value because we see a speeder going away and then it just goes under the ice. I know they're going for that shock value, but for somebody that seemed so vigilant and so aware of what was going on, it seemed very weird that he was the one to bite it in the end. I don't know. That was a little minor thing. I'm just like, really? We're just going to kill that guy off just for dramatic tension? It felt kind of unnecessary. But yeah, that scene with the creature in the ice was tense. Grabbing onto the ship was very well done. The CGI in this show so far, it looks good. Not flawless, but it's also a TV show, so I don't expect it to be like higher quality, movie quality. I will say the use of practical effects in this, I enjoy it. I feel like they're doing a good job of not just relying on CG so heavily. Because that's something that I think a lot of people can agree that Star Wars, when it relies on a lot of CG, is when it starts to feel, okay, I mean, we get it. You're showing us all these fantastical worlds with the power of CGI. Cool, we've seen this before, though. So whenever they go back and kind of go back to the old school, like, practical effects, like the one alien whose name I don't remember that helped Mando learn how to ride the thing, the fact that he's not like a CGI alien, they just basically put a mask on a guy, it seems like, and that's what he looks like, and I appreciate that. I'm like, okay, cool. I mean, we're not CGIing a face onto a guy. I kind of like that. So it's just the little things like that I do appreciate. But yeah, I can't really think of anything else that stood out in this episode, so we'll see what happens next. On to the next one. I'll see you there. And now, Chapter 2, The Child. So, again, more fun stuff happening. And there's just something about whenever Mando is not getting his way that I feel like just, it makes him a bit more endearing. Because there's just, I think there's so many characters that almost always just, they do whatever, they're just badass, and that's it, and they just win, and that's all they do. So whenever you have those types of characters, but then you get these moments where he gets his ship taken apart by Jawas, and then he can't stop him, and then he has to go fight this mudhorn thing, and get the egg back from it, and just is getting tossed around. Something about that is just kind of funny, and it makes him more endearing as a character, in my opinion. Because it shows that he's not perfect. And I feel like that's important for these types of characters, because too often we see characters like Mando that are just perfect and flawless at everything, and they don't typically have that moment. Like, you think about the older James Bond movies, a lot of people, why they liked Daniel Craig's version more is because there were those moments where Bond was getting hurt, he was getting cut, he bled. The older James Bond, he almost never got cut. He would get captured sometimes, but then he'd instantly get out and he'd look fine doing all of it. So there is something to be said about the more modern take on the hero is one that can bleed, that can get hurt, but still finds a way to fight through it anyway. So I feel like the fact that they're doing this with Mando very early on, showing that he's not perfect, he can get thrown around and, fighting a mudhorn. I mean, it's fun, it's funny. I think it's a good setup for him and makes us want to see him succeed despite the fact that he is going through a lot of hardship. So yeah, I think a good decision to go with that early on. I will say it is a little odd, and I guess I know this happens after the fall of the Empire, but it is interesting that he sees Grogu, doing his Force thing. And I will say on that, it is funny to see him, like, Grogu walks up to him while he's trying to, like, heal himself with whatever he had, and you can see Grogu, it looks like he wants to heal him with his Force powers, and so he just, like, walks up, he's like, I got this, bro, and then he just picks him up, puts him back in. He's like, no, let me help you, hops back out. It's just, there's something funny about that interaction, and I like the fact Mando doesn't talk very much, Grogu doesn't talk at all, and yet their interactions are so full of personality, and there's so much communication seemingly happening, and not in like your typical way where there's like looks being given. It's one of those you could see Mando's trying to do his thing, Grogu's trying to do his thing to help, but Mando doesn't realize what he's doing. So I like how they're playing off of that and really showing some comedy there. But Mando tells the guy that helped him through all of this, it tells him that he's not sure what happened. I don't know if that's he doesn't know what the Force and what Jedi are. I find that very unlikely considering this is after the fall of the Empire. So you should know, what the Force is. Darth Vader was a very menacing presence. The Emperor was a very menacing presence. A lot of people should have known. I mean, I know obviously the Empire probably controlled the narratives, the media, all of that stuff. Oh, goodness, excuse me. So I know they probably weren't going around basically saying, hey, by the way, our Emperor and his right-hand man, Darth Vader, they're both Sith Lords, and they're very knowledgeable with the Force, with the dark side of the Force. I don't think they're putting out all of that information, but I feel like people, especially bounty hunters, would be in the know about what Force users are. So either this is him being ignorant because he's been living under a rock for the past however many years, or this is he is trying to hide what Grogu is to other people because he knows that if somebody found out that Grogu's a Force user, that could put him in more danger. That's more what I'm leaning towards, just because I do find it very unlikely that he doesn't know what Jedi, what the Sith, what the Force is. He doesn't know any of it. But we'll see. I'm sure they'll bring that up soon. Of course, if he's taking Grogu back to the guy that hired him to do this, does make me wonder if he just doesn't care about that then. I mean, I know ultimately he's going to decide to help the kid instead. I know that's going to be the ultimate outcome. But I don't know if he's going back there still, does he not realize that they're probably trying to track down Force users? We'll see what they decide to do with it and what the actual answer is in all of this. But yeah, it's more fun though. The Jawas are typically, I don't like them being around very often, but they are fun to have as like little antagonists every now and then. Like the few episodes that they popped up in, like, because I'm pretty sure they popped up in an episode or two of Clone Wars and also in Rebels. They're that little creature that you're just like, I don't like you, but you're fun to have around to mess with the good guys occasionally. And so this is a good example of he's trying to leave, they steal parts of his ship, and now he's got to go track him down. Then they try to sell him his ship back, only for him to be like, all right, fine, I'll go get you this egg thing that you want. And then they just eat the yolk. Just like savages. You don't even cook it first, what's wrong with you? But yeah, so they're fun to have around, though, as those one-off episode antagonists that just sort of are more inconvenient than they are villainous. And it was kind of funny because, they're not great characters, so you do kind of hate them as the audience. So it was kind of funny that the first thing he sees is them taking his ship apart, so he's like, all right, whips out his rifle and just disintegrates a few of them. I'm just, something very satisfying about the fact that no nonsense. Like, oh, Jawas? I know how to deal with this. So, yeah, it was another good, in my opinion, setup episode. I feel like more than likely once we reach that point of he brings Grogu back to the client, assuming that's what he's going to do, because I feel like it's still up in the air whether or not he's actually going to go back to him with Grogu. But if he does, I feel like that's the point where this first season will really kick off and we'll start to see what the plan is, like what is going on with this client. How is he related? Obviously he has stormtroopers working for him, so how is he related to the Empire and all of that? And yeah, it's a good setup, and I feel like it's got me excited to see what's more to come this season. So on to the final of these 3 episodes. I'll see you there. Finally, chapters 3, The Sin. So yeah, basically it feels like at this point we are starting to get more into the main chunk of the story, with Mando taking the kid and flying off with him. It's a good start. It's a good start to it because it really shows that even though he is a bounty hunter, he is willing to do whatever to get the job done, there is still that part of him that he sees the kid, and I feel like he does relate to him. They showed again the scene where he goes to the armorer and she's pounding away at the steel, and it makes him flash back to that moment when he lost his parents. And I do feel like that's they're still not saying it, but I feel like that's what they're implying is his reasoning for why he does feel for the kid. Why he is so willing to go back and get him, despite the fact that he has no real reason to outside of that. So, yeah, I did appreciate them kind of giving us even more of the scene this time, because at first, whenever they started showing the clips of the parents carrying him, I was just like, what, are we just going to see this again? But they did at least show more of it this time. They're like filling in some of the gaps that were left first time we saw it. So I like how they did that. Pretty clever setup. I did also like the fact that, I don't know, just you could almost, even though his face is covered with a mask, the way that, and I don't know if they actually put Pedro Pascal inside the suit and let him act, or if they had somebody else doing the body acting. I would assume it's him in there, but just the way that he moves, you don't need to see his face, because you know what's going through his head. You know what expression is on his face when he's sitting there in the ship and he shuts it off and he's just like walking away. It's just, God, why do I gotta care? Why do I gotta care about this kid? It's just a job. Why am I such an idiot? It's just the way he moves himself and carries himself. It's very good. It's good body acting since we can't see his facial expressions. So really do like that. I also did appreciate, because at first I wasn't sure how they were going to handle him deciding to save the kid. I thought it was going to be one of those, he gets back, they say something that sounds sort of threatening, or maybe they threaten the kid, and he decides, you know what, no, I'm changing the deal. But I did appreciate after the fact why they made him basically take a little while to actually decide, you know what, no, I'm not just leaving the kid to these people who are going to do God knows what with him. There was a reason for that. He needed to complete the deal first so he could get the metal to make himself a new suit of armor. And with that armor now, it does feel like he's a little bit more in control. I still feel like there are probably going to be moments where he will get sort of beaten up a little or knocked around a little bit, just so, again, we're not sitting here going, oh, well, God, I mean, he's gonna win every fight from now on. There is still going to be that vulnerability, I feel, but I do think it's going to happen a little less now that he's got a new suit of armor that is a lot stronger and less compromised. So, but he did get his shining badass moment this one, taking on all the stormtroopers. And honestly, they're kind of easy targets, similar to like the droids from the prequels. You have those easy targets that your main characters can just wipe out several of them at once just to show how badass they are. So we had a moment like that in this one, and it was, appropriately badass. So yeah, it was a lot of fun to watch him in action, a lot of fun to watch him going to get the kid back, and even just that moment with the scientist that was doing, I don't know what they were planning to do with them. We heard something about get the necessary material, so I don't know if there was something in his DNA maybe. I don't know if they're going like, I'd hate to even think about this, but if they're going like midichlorians route, since we know he's a force wielder. I don't know what they're doing with him, but just the doctor's reaction of like, oh my God, please don't hurt me. Hello? Oh. There are a couple moments where it felt very Batman-esque. So I have fun with those scenes, because, I mean, it's fun to watch somebody who it seems like, we got him. And then all of a sudden you don't got him. Excuse me. The Mandalorian stuff as well, I'm enjoying getting to see a bit more. I don't know, it has been a little bit since I watched Rebels, and I know we had a few episodes that directly involved like Sabine and her going back to Mandalore and them talking about some Mandalorian, some Mandalore. I immediately regretted that pun. But I don't know how much of that they're keeping similar or same, and how much they are sort of changing a bit with this, because a lot of that stuff was happening before the Empire fell, so maybe some things changed with the Mandalorians after the Empire fell, and maybe this group is different than the ones that we saw in Rebels. Obviously, this is the way, it's been a meme, so I knew it was coming, but that's something that was not in Rebels, so I don't know if that's just something for this little group of Mandalorians, or if that became something after the Empire went and attacked Mandalore, and that kind of became their creed after all of that. So, I don't know. I'll be curious to find out a bit more about the Mandalorians and a bit more about what's going on with them. Is this all that's left of them? Is this little group, and so that's why they stick together no matter what, or are there still more out there somewhere? I don't know. But it's definitely got me hooked. It's got me interested to see more. I'm trying to remember if there's anything else important. I do like the... I'm not going to remember his name because I'm terrible with names. But the black guy that originally gave Mando his bounties and all of that stuff. I did like that little interchange with him. Just because you can tell he respects Mando, he respects what he does, but also he is a bounty hunter through and through. So if you do anything that goes against the creed, goes against the guild, he's willing to put you down if he has to. So I appreciated that little interchange, and even just at the end, you could see Mando still respects him as well. So I'm sure they're trying to show he made sure to hit that bit of Beskar that. I think that's what it's called, the metal. He made sure to hit that so he didn't kill him. So I do feel like he'll come back. I don't know if he's going to be an ally or an enemy, but it does feel like they're building him up to possibly be a bit of a rival to Mando, because he seems very competent, even though he's not quite on Mando's level. But yeah, it's a good setup. I know these are pretty short seasons. They're only 8 episodes each, so I believe I've got to watch seasons 1 and 2, because I think those are the next 2 before I get on to the next Star Wars thing after this. But yeah, I'm excited. I've obviously, a lot of my excitement is coming from other people's opinions that I've heard already. But even with that being said, these first 3 episodes kind of show me there wasn't anything really stupid. There wasn't anything that was dumb in the writing process. These characters are well written. The story so far is interesting. It's not giving me all the answers. It's leaving some vagueness so that way I can be, I guess, pulled along in the story. Because if there's no mystery, then why bother watching? If everything is answered within the first couple episodes, then you kind of feel like, okay, well, I kind of see where all of this is going. But there's enough in there where I don't know what's going on, or I don't know where it could be going, that it's got my attention, basically, and it's got me ready to watch more. But yeah, I mean, the action is good. The CGI is pretty good. Again, really enjoying the practical effects and how they're utilizing those. And Mando as a character, and his little interchange more with Grogu in this episode, it really, I feel like I could see how entertaining this can be down the line and how well they'll work off of each other. The nearly silent bounty hunter and the almost completely silent outside of baby noises Grogu. Like that is a fun exchange between the two of them. And yeah, I'm ready for more. The CW shows really put me in a foul mood, so I'm glad that I have a show now that can pull me back out of it and remind me that there are still some good shows out there. So, I'm just kidding. I'm not. Superman and Lois, still respect. It's a good show. So, not all of them were shit. Just most of them were. But yeah, that's it for me. So let me know what you think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on these 3 episodes? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Mandalorian reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.